This is All of It. I'm Allison Stewart. Thanks for sharing part of your day with us. I'm really grateful that you're here. Here's a little peek at what Team All of It is working on for next week. On Monday, we'll talk with Adolfo Veloso, the cinematographer behind the Best Picture-nominated period drama Train Dreams. It's part of our Oscar series. On Tuesday, we'll talk with author Chris Jennings, whose new book explores the Ruby Ridge standoff gone very wrong. The book is called End of Days, Ruby Ridge, the Apocalypse, and the Unmaking of America. And on Wednesday, I'll speak with artist Carolyn Mazlumi about her quilting and textile show, Certain Restrictions Do Apply. Her work uses fabric arts to explore the narratives of Black history. That is what is coming up next week. But to kick off this hour, we're heading to Milan. You knew we had to do it. Tomorrow, the 2026 Winter Olympics kick off in Milan, Italy. Some of the best athletes in the world are headed there to compete in figure skating, skiing, ice hockey, snowboarding, and of course, everyone's favorite, curling. But some drama has begun even before the opening ceremonies. The Norwegian ski jumping team has been caught in a cheating scandal. U.S. skiing gold medalist Lindsey Vonn has announced she'll be competing with a torn ACL. And one figure skater is fighting to have his routine approved, and it involves the Minions, as in the cartoon characters. You don't want to make the Minions cry. Joining us now to give us a preview of what events and athletes to look out for at this Winter Olympics is Matthew Futterman, a senior writer for The Athletic, who is in Milan as we speak. Hi, Matt.
Hi, Allison. How are you? I'm just gonna warn you. I'm not a massive figure skating expert,
Okay.
so I don't have the insider scoop on that Minions controversy.
We'll be gentle with you. First of all, what sense do you get how the preparations have been going in Milan?
Yeah, I think they were last minute, as everyone expected, which is sort of par for the course with both the Olympics these days and also just major events. There's a lot of stuff you really can't do really far in advance. Like Cortina d'Ampezzo, which is this tiny town in northeast Italy, which is hosting alpine skiing and a number of other things. The town just sort of has to operate and be a winter resort community. And so a lot of the stuff they've been doing has been going on for the last few months. So it's been a little seat of the pants in terms of some of the facilities, especially the hockey arena, where they were struggling to make ice about 6 weeks ago. But it's like I said, I think a lot of people sort of expected this, and it was sort of what was going to come with coming to a country that with a reputation for doing things at the last minute.
Oh, I remember in 2006 I went to Torino, and they were literally painting. When we showed up, they were painting the light posts.
Yeah, it's all part of the charm. You sort of take it with the incredible food and the outrageous views and the beautiful scenery.
I do want to ask about U.S. tensions before we get into sports. There have been tensions with the U.S. government and leadership and governments in European nations of late, especially in the wake of President Trump's push for the U.S. to acquire Greenland. Do you get any sense about what kinds of international tension there might be?
So I think it's the tension that I think I'm most sensitive to is the athletes who are representing the flag and what that means in a world where America has become a little bit of a pariah, maybe a lot of a pariah in many ways. I think there was a really interesting post that Jesse Diggins put up, the star cross-country skier, Olympic medalist multiple times, and a real leader of Nordic skiing. And I think, a lot of other U.S. athletes look up to her. And she posted about how no one gets to tell her what America she is representing. She is representing an America that stands for peace and love and knowing that there's lots of people who stand for all of those things, and that's what she wants people to see her as representing. And I thought that was sort of a poignant thing to say, because it is difficult. I mean, I'm an American. I was in Australia covering the Australian Open tennis, excuse me, over the last few weeks, and I came right here. And, it's a little weird being an American abroad these days. America's doing a lot of things that I would say are complicated to say the least.
We're discussing the 2026 Winter Olympics. They kick off tomorrow in Milan, Italy. My guest is Matthew Futterman, senior writer for The Athletic. And listeners, we want to hear from you. What events are you most excited for at this Olympics? Our number is 212-433-9692, 212-433-WNYC. One controversy that has happened before the games even started has been this cheating scandal among Norwegian ski jumpers. Can you get us up to speed what's happened here?
So, I mean, I think we have to offer a warning here. Are we allowed to talk about, the male anatomy, and because that's the
I
area that this cheating scandal has to do with. So
Yes, I'm looking at
the
my
word CROTCH is going to be used in the next 60 seconds
That's fine.
for
That's
your.
not on my list of 7 words that you can't say. So crotch is
Okay.
fine.
Okay, so basically what happened was last year at the World Championships, Norway got caught sewing extra material into the crotch area of its ski jumping suits because the ski jumping suit sort of acts like a sail on a sailboat when ski jumpers go off the jump. The bigger the sail, the more wind it can catch, the farther that the jumper flies. So they were sewing these special threads in there that would allow it to expand. Uh, there was a whistleblower who filmed the coaches through a curtain, sewing this stuff in the night before, I think, the final competition, and turned that over both to the media and the officials in ski jumping, and all hell broke loose in both ski jumping and Norway, which has a very sort of buttoned up reputation for not cheating and not caring so much about winning, even though they're the most successful Winter Olympic sports country in the history of the Olympic Games. And so, yes, we have these jumpers who were exonerated and claimed that they had no idea that their coaches were doctoring their suits. They will be competing. The coaches, however, have received an 18-month ban from any competition. They've lost their jobs. It's unclear what their future in sports is going to be. And so here we are, where we're usually talking about the Russians cheating, and right now we're talking about how Norway cheated and what will now happen.
Some big news came out this week. Skiing star Lindsey Vonn revealed that she has torn her ACL. She had a crash, I think, 5 or 6 days ago, but she still plans to compete in the Olympics. Given the crash, how realistic is that for her?
Uh, so we'll know a lot more on Friday after she does her first training run. That was supposed to be today, Thursday, but it snowed a lot, and they have to make the downhill track really, really flat and hard for safety reasons. And so they weren't able to do that today. It sounds completely crazy that she ruptured her ACL and is going to ski on it a week later. But first of all, she has like the strongest legs in sports. So that's one thing. Second of all, she has no swelling, which is really interesting
Hmm.
because those injuries tend to bleed and swell a lot initially. Hers does not. It did not, which some doctors I've talked to said suggests that it might already have been somewhat ruptured. And so now it just went fully ruptured. She's had lots of horrendous injuries. She's on a partial knee replacement in her right knee. She's got a lot of titanium in there. But this is on her left knee. She says that she has skied on it wearing a brace. It feels stable, and she's desperate to go for it at 41 years old. It's sort of an improbable comeback as it is. She came back in 2024 had a frustrating season, but this year is the dominant downhill skier in the world once more. And so this crash and the subsequent injury was just a huge heartbreaker for her and for lots of people who are very invested in her comeback, which is really stirring. And she's a superstar, and she's just one of these athletes that just brings people into her sport who would never otherwise watch it.
Feel sort of, I don't know if this is the right question to ask, but she's 41 years old. Is that too old for her to ski? And on
Um,
the level she's
I
skiing?
mean, I'm gonna say 100% no because she's the leader in the downhill this season. I mean, she's
Hmm.
like winning every week or getting on the podium every week. She's absolutely unbelievable. And so the fact that she ruptured her ACL, she crashed and ruptured it. There's a 23-year-old or 22-year-old member of the US team, Lauren Masuga, who ruptured her ACL in December, and she underwent surgery,
Yeah.
and she's not here. So it's a very common injury for people who ski 80 miles an hour if they crash. So this has nothing to do with age. This just has everything to do with a sport that has a 100% injury rate, and
Mm.
the injuries can be really bad because they're flying down an icy mountain at 80 miles an hour.
Someone just texted, Lindsay, I'm rooting for her as hard as humanly possible.
See?
There you
That's
go.
what I'm talking about. I mean, like and I wouldn't be surprised if that person who texted you like hasn't has barely watched a ski race. Like,
Mm.
my wife never watches ski races, and she was heartbroken about Lindsey Vonn.
We're talking to Matthew Futterman, senior writer for The Athletic. We're discussing the 2026 Winter Olympics, which kick off tomorrow in Milan, Italy. We want to hear from you. What events are you most excited for this Olympics? Our number is 212-433-9692, 212-433-WNYC. U.S. skier Mikaela Shiffrin is the most decorated skier ever, but she has not had as much success at the Olympics, and she also has some serious injuries. How is she looking going into these games?
She's looking great.
Hmm.
She's had a really good season, especially in slalom, which is her specialty. She's winning all the time, like Lindsey Vonn, or landing on the podium all the time. The big question is how she'll do in giant slalom, which is a faster race. It's a race that she wiped out pretty badly
Mm.
in November, or maybe it was December 1st. It was either November 30th or December 1st of 2024 in Killington, Vermont, in a race, and she ended up with a puncture wound in her abdomen, probably from either the gate or her pole. No one can really figure it out. Even she doesn't know. She's quite frustrated by that, even though she's better now. She missed most of last season, and then when she came back, she suffered symptoms of PTSD when she was doing giant slalom. It's been a long road back in that event. She was just uncomfortable and scared of going fast, and her brain was sort of telling her not to do it. And so, but she actually landed on a podium recently in giant slalom. So, she really could not be coming into Olympics in a better position. That, of course, raises expectations, and those expectations were pretty crushing 4 years ago when she, crashed in three races in Beijing. That was a different time. Her father had died not so long
Mm.
before. She had a lot of stuff going on, I think, in retrospect, and it was a very unfamiliar, uncomfortable place for her to be. So she's in a really good headspace now, hopefully, from what she says. And she's in a place that she loves in Cortina, Italy. I think most of the skiers love Cortina, Italy. There's a lot to love there. And so I think people, and she expects a lot of herself, in addition to other people expecting a lot of her.
One more skiing question. There's a brand new sport called ski mountaineering. How is this sport different from other ski events already included in the games?
Well, you run up the mountain. I mean, no chairlifts allowed, basically.
Wow.
You put these. you put these what are called skins on the bottom of your skis, and you have to run up the mountain and then ski down. Obviously, you got to take the skins off because the skins are what makes your skis kind of stick to the snow and prevent you from sliding backwards as you're running up the mountain. So that's basically how the race goes, and it's sort of what I think is probably the most tiring Olympic event I could possibly imagine in the Winter Olympics right now.
Unbelievable.
Yeah, it's pretty outrageous. I mean, I have a friend who skins up mountains, and and I've passed many people doing it when I've been skiing, and yeah, they're the sweatiest people on the mountain by far. So, yeah, hats off to all the ski mountaineers out there.
We got a text that says, I watch skiing whenever I can. I'm an Olympics fanatic. We are talking about the 2026 Winter Olympics, which kick off tomorrow in Milan, Italy. My guest is Matthew Futterman, senior writer with The Athletic. After the break, we'll talk a little bit about snowboarding, a little bit about hockey, and just a little bit about figure skating. This is WNYC, and it is all of it. We're discussing the 2026 Winter Olympics, which kick off tomorrow in Milan, Italy. My guest is Matthew Futterman, senior writer for The Athletic. All right, you mentioned that you weren't completely up to date on figure skating, but who should we keep our eye open for?
Yeah, I'm up to date enough to tell you to keep your eye open for Ilya Malinin and Alyssa Liu, who are the reigning world champions. They're Americans. Yeah, they're phenomenal athletes and phenomenal skaters. And Malinin basically does things that I don't think no skater has ever done before in terms of the number of rotations he does in the air. I think they're also both really interesting because they're both the children of immigrants. And, I think, they're going to be highlighted on NBC and the American broadcast as much as any athletes are probably over the next week because, figure skating gets a lot of eyeballs. And so they show a lot of figure skating. And I think it's an interesting moment for America to be embracing these two children of immigrants and sort of understanding, that in some ways, in a lot of ways, like without embracing people from other places, we don't really have sports stars. They're all over the place these days, and these ones are going to be right in front of your face for a really long time over the next 2 weeks if you're watching the Olympics.
I'm going to ask you about the Spanish figure skater who made some waves for performing a Minions-inspired routine complete with overalls and a yellow shirt. He had been informed he might not be able to use the Minions music that he had been using for his routine. What is the status of the Minions routine? Do you know?
I don't know at this moment, but free the Minions is my position on it.
We got a text here that says, I'm excited for the bobsledding, and as a fan of Cool Runnings, I am excited to see the Jamaican team that I hear has been killing it this season.
Yeah, I mean the Jamaicans in bobsledding, who knew, right? Obviously, they have a good history with that. Yeah, it's a fact. It can be a very exciting sport. I mean, I honestly, I'm in a position where I know a little too much about bobsledding
Oh,
because I did I've done a lot of reporting over the years about the post-concussion syndrome that a lot of bobsledders experience. Bobsledding has been sort of racked by um, by athletes that have long-term brain injuries. Skeleton is the same way. So, in some ways, I feel the same way watching bobsledding that I do about like watching football, which is essentially like I enjoy it, but I also feel bad because I know that there's, not great things going on.
right.
Those sleds, they look very smooth on TV when they're going over the ice. But what neurologists have compared it to, sort of not shaking baby syndrome, but shaking adult syndrome. I mean, that's what's really going on.
So they're having
It's
CTE
incredibly.
injuries?
Yeah, oh yeah. I mean, Steve Holcomb, who there's been yeah, I mean, there have been several suicides among
Mm.
these sliding sport athletes in the last 10 years, including Steve Holcomb, who was the pilot of, one of the American bobsleds that won the gold medal. I think it was 2010. So it's a problem for the sport, and it's something that they have to address. And I think they're trying to address it.
We got another text here that says USA mixed doubles curling team won twice today. So that's good news.
Yeah, I heard that. I was
Yeah.
not there. I was
It-
not there, but I heard that. So for all the curling fans out there, um, I've always been a little baffled by curling personally. But every 4 years, people get obsessed with curling, and yeah, I guess my main memory of curling is I was flying back from, I think, yeah, the Korea Olympics, and the U.S. had won a gold medal, and a guy from, I think, Minnesota had become like a big star, and we were at the airport, and he was on my flight, and he was very upset that he wasn't in that there was no first class ticket available for him, that he was in the back of the plane with me, and he was sort of pleading with everybody, with the people at the gate, and it was sort of like, yeah, I'm really sorry, like you were an Olympic hero yesterday, and today you're going back to the back of the plane. Sorry. So it's sort of the ultimate sort of curling thing to me, but people are fascinated with these people for 2 weeks every year and every 4 years, and then yeah, we don't see a lot of curling.
For the first time in a while, many National Hockey League top athletes will be competing in the Olympics. First of all, why weren't they included before?
Well, the NHL has to stop its season in order for hockey players to participate, and that just didn't make sense for them. They didn't think when the Olympics were taking place in the COVID world of Beijing, or in South Korea, where they're just that's not really a big growth area for hockey. So it wasn't worth it for the NHL. But NHL players love to play Olympic hockey. They love to represent their countries, especially the Canadians, the Americans, the Czech team. I mean, hockey's huge in a lot of these Winter Olympic countries, and so that should be an incredibly spirited tournament, with truly most of the best hockey players in the world. No Russians, though. There would be no Russian team because the Russian athletes are banned from playing under their flag, and Russian teams are not allowed to compete as a nation.
Would you explain that for people?
Well, Russia invaded Ukraine in 2022, and ever since then has been a real pariah of international sport. A lot of and what the IOC has decided was while it's sort of wrong to punish these athletes for the behavior of their government, there was sort of a statement that they needed to make. So um, Russian athletes had to get special approval to compete as neutral, no, to compete as neutral athletes, essentially as not under any flag, which is I guess kind of okay, or but also kind of weird because everybody knows they're Russians anyway. So it's very symbolic, obviously, but to the extent that you want to have some leverage over Russia in whatever peace talks may or may not be happening right now. If it's an incentive for them to re-enter the world of international sports, and that can help a little bit, I think probably people who support Ukraine like I do in this conflict are probably okay with it.
This text says, my favorite is the biathlon. Who came up with this race where you cross country ski and shoot? Before we go, I wanted to ask you about snowboarding. Chloe Kim, a lot of people remember her as a fan favorite snowboarder who won 2 gold medals in 2022. How are her chances?
before I talk about Chloe Kim, I want to just give a shout out to your listener who likes biathlon. It is an amazing sport. It's a great sport. It's the best party at the Olympics. Everybody's drunk at a biathlon
Oh
race.
boy.
It's huge fun. There's cowbells. And this year, I mean, it's also the only Olympic sport where Winter Olympic sport where the U.S. has not won a medal. This year, the U.S. actually has a chance to win a
Oh,
medal. There's a guy named Campbell Wright who's good and occasionally gets onto podiums. He is a son of American parents, but grew up in New Zealand and was competing for New Zealand, and now but switched to compete for America because New Zealand doesn't really have any biathletes or biathlon federation, and so he's someone to keep an eye on. He may just do it. So anyway, but moving on from Campbell Wright to Chloe Kim. Yeah, Chloe Kim, 25 years old, all grown up now, going for a third straight gold medal. Pretty incredible. And I would argue don't bet against Chloe Kim.
anything that you're really looking forward to this Olympics?
I am so looking forward to the Olympics being in the heartland of Winter Olympic sports. I, I I came on to Olympic sports coverage in 2008, 2009. My first on the ground Olympics was in Vancouver, which was great, the North American Rockies. Since then, I was in Sochi, which is basically a summer resort, and I was sweating in a t-shirt while covering alpine skiing. Then went to South Korea, which doesn't have a great history of Winter Olympic sports, mostly man-made snow. They're really good at short track speed skating. Then Beijing. I think enough said about Beijing and Winter Olympics, and there were no spectators because of COVID. And now we're in the Italian Alps, the Dolomites, and it's pretty magical here. There's incredible. It's just absolutely beautiful wherever you look, and there's just Olympic sports fans everywhere who are descending on this area. So it's going to have, I think, that real organic feel that has been missing from the Olympics for quite some time.
Matthew Futterman is a senior writer at The Athletic. He is following the Olympics, the 2026 Winter Olympics, which kick off tomorrow in Milan, Italy. Thanks for taking the time and have a great Olympics.
Thanks so much for having me.